fishing from Crimpy.
Newstalk ZB Saturday morning, and welcome back to the show. It is Fishing with Crimpy, and here's your host, Mr. Daryl Crimp.
Oh, the break has done you well, my good man.
Hasn't it, eh?
And welcome back to what's your name? Blonde moment there.
My name's Reagan.
Oh, Reagan.
Yes.
How are you, Reagan? How was the holiday?
Oh, brilliant. I've been in Australia for 2 weeks.
Who cares?
It was wonderful.
All right, welcome, James. James Cameron in the studio. Nice to have you along, James.
Morning, guys. How are you?
The very presumptuous James Cameron, by the way. Because you presume that we want to talk to you, and you've come along with your notes yet again.
Well, when you phoned me up, Crimpy, and said, "Look, James, we really need you. We want you here. It's not about the money.
Are you drinking again?
I can write any numbers of zeros on this check. Just come down."
So, Reagan, your holiday in Australia. Tell me about that.
Well, it was great. We're up in Yeppoon. We're up Yeppoon, and which is north of Rockhampton. About 40 minutes north of Rockhampton in Queensland. It was beautiful, absolutely tropical. Didn't go below 20 degrees. It was great.
Mummy and Daddy live there.
Mummy and Daddy live there now. Yep, Dad's Inspector Gadget of the mines over in Queensland. So he actually took me to a mine, and this is quite funny because the fishing paper cost the Yarrabee mine in Queensland $150,000.
Whoa, we cost them $150K.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that. You might get a bill. So what happened was I was talking away to the miners up there, and they got this big screen TV where they do their briefing, and they asked me what I did and everything. I talked about the paper, and they went, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah, it's online. Have a look." And so they got on there and went, "Wow!" And there's the fishing paper on a 65-inch flat screen TV, and about a dozen miners in a semicircle reading it, and one of them would want to turn the page, and a couple of them would go, "Whoa, wait." Yep, okay, turn the page. So I calculated about 15 minutes, which calculated to about $150,000 worth of downtime for the Yarrabee mine. So
downtime costs them how much a minute?
It's about $10,000 or something.
That's amazing.
It's
You're
incredible.
incredibly cheerful for a guy who's just lost his latest pay round.
Oh.
Unbelievably happy. Did
Well
you get
played.
to do any fishing while you're over
I
there?
did. I went surf casting with Dar.
Yeah.
We went off just off the beach here. Nothing much about. We caught a little dart fish in the breakers there, but it's quite a
Hold up your hands. I don't think people saw that.
Oh, right,
Hold them up again. About that big.
that big.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is these boys, all the way along the beach.
Oh, God.
No, not
Oh.
no buoys.
Talk about miners. Now you're talking about buoys. Where's this going?
No buoys.
Oh, buoys.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, what
Your pinya.
are you going to listen to me?
No,
No,
haven't been
probably
all
not.
along, but
someone will.
just waiting. I cut in when the lips close.
It's not going to happen. So these boys are all out, and I was saying, what are they? And apparently they're shark boys. So they've got a big hook on them with a big, like a chicken on it.
Oh, yeah.
And to catch the sharks, and they pull them up every morning.
So what are they attached to?
A buoy?
I know that, but what are the buoys attached to? Do you just swim out when you see one bobbing?
No, boats go along every morning and pick
Oh.
them up. Yeah, and just pull it up and go, oh, yeah, there's a shark, chuck it on board.
They must be anchored to the ground.
Yeah, well, they'll be anchored, won't they?
Well,
They're not idiots.
Okay,
They're
sorry,
Australians.
Sorry, Regan.
But I thought that was quite interesting because it would be the worst thing to do is just put out some bait. It'll be attracting the sharks.
yeah.
But anyway,
All right.
There we
And
go.
you've worked out what a yabby pump is?
I worked out what a yabby pump is, yes. Dad goes down with his yabby pump and they put it over the hole and pump away and they come shooting out.
And what do they look like, these yabbies?
Oh, no, I didn't catch them. They're supposed to come shooting out. But,
A very successful trip all
yes,
round
indeed.
there.
Yeah,
It's
it
good to
sounds
be back.
great.
It's good to be back, though.
Well, it would be, yeah.
And then I came in here.
And then we got James.
Yeah.
It goes from worse to bad, doesn't it?
It does, beat to nurse.
All right, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking something that is overseas, the North Island. James, you've just come back from there.
Yeah, that's right.
Excursion.
Spent a couple of days up north and managed to get along to the Snapper 1 consultation meetings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In the big city of Tauranga.
Tauranga, yes. 2 were in Auckland, 1 was in Tauranga, the final one. So, yeah, plenty of discussion to come out of that.
All right, and we'll follow that up very shortly. We'll be back in just a moment.
It is Fishing with Crimpy on Newstalk ZB. Hello, Saturday morning.
And hello tides. If you're wanting to get out on the water today, you need to know what the high tide is, simply because that's what we've got in front of us now. 10 past the hour of 6 p.m. is the high tide for Nelson, Tasman. Your high tide is 3.5 metres. If you're waiting for high tide, you have to wait till 4 minutes to the hour of 6 p.m. and you've got a 2.6 metre high tide there. Crissel's 10 to 6 this evening, 3.0 metres. Stevens 20 to 6 and it's a 2.4 metre. Westport, next high tide is it's now in at the moment. Your next high tide is 7:30, and Greymouth ditto the same for that, 2.9 for Westport and 3 metres for Greymouth.
Do you know they up in Queensland they have tides of up around 5-6 metres?
Do they?
Yeah, huge, eh?
On the other side of the island, can't tell you where it is, but they have tides of even greater.
Really?
I think sort of something like 14 metres. But then I wouldn't trust anything an Aussie tells you.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
Everything's bigger and better in Australia.
Everything's bigger and better than Reagan.
Oh, come on.
Not bigger.
Anyway, James, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
I noticed in the last break that your lips were moving because you weren't getting sound through the earphones.
Yeah, we've rectified that.
Yeah,
back online.
Yeah, simply turned up the volume for you.
Yeah,
Did that work for you?
Yeah, these small tricks that you don't really know about.
No, you're doing well in IT, I hear.
Yeah, I'm in technology, but I'm not really in technology, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, obviously you're okay when there's buttons to push, but not the old knob.
I need colours.
Not
I
good
need colours.
Not good with knobs. All right. However, you've mixed
Proudly.
with a few knobs in the North Island.
Yes, there's plenty of knobs up there, actually.
Yeah, we can be derogatory to them because this show doesn't travel that far. Unless they check Facebook or the internet. Oh dear, I think we could be in trouble here. Snapper 1 has hit the news. There's been a lot of argy-bargy about it. It's amazing when something happens in Auckland's backyard, the whole country hears about it, but nobody's even discussed what's going on in Snapper 7 in our backyard, and there's some serious issues there. But of course, the whole country's been gripped by the Snapper 1. You went to one of the meetings in Tauranga, was it?
That's right.
So what is the feeling on the ground up there? What are they actually getting up in arms about?
Well, it sort of strikes at the heart of what they enjoy up there and what we all enjoy, and that's the ability to go out and get a decent day's catch in terms of the snapper, which is their core fishery, much like, for example, our cod is down here. So, for those guys, it's really it's getting under their skin, and they've come out in droves, and they're really putting the knife into the MPI over their proposals.
Put it in perspective, it is a proposal, IPP initialing positioning paper. Technically what it is they put out these papers for discussion to the community before they make a decision. Now, in my experience, they generally have already made up their mind what they want,
Yep.
and they give you a number of choices saying, well, we can do A, B or C. In this case, what they were proposing that got up people's nose was what?
So they've got three sort of plans of attack for how to rectify what they view as the overcatch in the fishery, and build that fishery up to the level that they want, which is around 40% of the natural catch size, the natural virgin fishery. Yeah. Sits at about 19% so far. So in the last couple of seasons, it's grown a bit, but they're looking at that from a long-term point of view. So they want to get it up to that 40. And what they're saying is some of the ideas how we can achieve that is to take some of the catch off the recreational guys. And that in itself is probably not sufficient to generate the publicity and the concern that's been generated. But I think what's really put fuel under this fire is that they're not proposing to take, in the current suggestions, they're not proposing to take anything off commercial. So they want to leave commercial where it sits, and they want to give recreational the cuts.
And there'll be a very good reason why they're not taking anything off commercial, and that is simply because they got the quota, they own it.
That's right. So it's two distinct classes of asset, really.
Well, it is, and that's one of the things that recreational fishers need to be aware of, that we technically or legally don't have any ownership on the fish in the water, whereas the commercial sector very cunningly, 30-odd years ago when the quota system came in, put proprietary rights on it. In other words, that the quota's transferable. It means they own the fish in the water, therefore they have a right to catch it, and the government will be backing away from making cuts to them because it will cost them big time, and this issue is all about money. How? We'll have more of that in just a moment.
Talk ZB, you're on Fishing with Crimpy.
And we're talking a snapper in particular, the ones in the North Island. Not because they're any different from ours, but because the North Islanders are upset at the moment because of proposed cuts to the recreational fishery, and it's the unfairness bell that's tolling at the moment. They're saying, well, you're cutting us, but you're not cutting the commercial boys. I mentioned before the break that they have the quota, so it's very difficult for the government to come in and cut there. It'll cost them big money. They'd have to buy out the quota. There is a money issue to this side of the thing. And the other side of the money coin is that the government, we are in debt. Our debt is increasing all the time. And the government is, because of the recession, saying to all the sectors, the extractive and the primary producers, make more money. In other words, for the commercial guys, catch more fish. So they don't want to make cuts. They want them to catch them. Now, we mentioned virgin biomass before we went to the ad break. The current North Island Snapper 1 fishery, which goes up the north coast, right, and then down again as far as the Bay of Plenty.
East Cape, yeah.
Yeah, East Cape, is currently at under 20% of the virgin biomass.
That's right, yeah.
So what is virgin biomass, James?
Yeah, so the virgin biomass is what they assume the fishery was in its untouched natural state. So if they say, if we look at the fishery from a point of view of no interference, no harvest, no take, no catch, what would that fishery represent in terms of its size? And they're saying, okay, we've got this, nominal figure, and they're estimating the size of the fishery we have now to be at 19% of that figure. So it sounds dire, it sounds quite bad.
It is dire. So when you get, one thing I have learnt from marine biologists and not just ones locally here in Nelson or New Zealand, but I've spoken with them from around the world, and there was a fishery called the Atlantic cod. I don't know whether you remember that fishery. Back in the 1990, it was closed. 91, it was closed because the fishery collapsed, and they fished it down to a point where it just tipped over 1 year. And if you've seen The World's Deadliest Catch, where they catch all those crabs on TV, that's the area we're talking about. Now, what happened very simply was that they fished it down to a point that it couldn't recover, and there was an ecosystem flip. So what was at the bottom of the food chain suddenly became the top, and the top just disappeared altogether. So when you get down to 19% of a virgin biomass, you're in a really dicey situation. So it has to rebuild. And the problem with the rebuild is we've learnt with Snapper 7, that's our backyard, which collapsed in 2008. Now, during those years, we learnt recently that they were taking 5,000 tonne of snapper out of the bay a year. 5,000 tonne. The current total allowable commercial catch is 200, and they want to put it up here. It's taken 35 years for that snapper collapse to start to rebuild, and we're only in the starting rebuilding phase at the moment. So Auckland, it's not a quick fix for them, is it?
No, not at all. And I think when, just touching on what you're saying there, you look at the scale of Snapper 1 as a fishery, whereas the Tasman Bay area is quite isolated and quite small. So I think you take all that into account. Action has to be taken, but it has to be taken in an equitable way. Yeah.
I think the government have signalled just recently that they're going to back down on the three bag cut limit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's been bandied around, I think, by the media as a worst case scenario. So the MPI at the discussion meeting was very keen to get across that the 3 fish limit is at the bottom of the proposal chain, but that's the one that scaremongering is
one issue that's conveniently been sort of sidestepped or brushed aside in all of this, with the focus being put on recreational as the root of the cause now, is it's become quite apparent in recent months that the commercial are dumping snapper. And that's a huge problem up there.
Yeah, and there seems to be quite a lot of photos and evidence of this going on, and high grading and all these sorts of processes. So recreational is jumping up and down and going, we've got to get rid of these. We've got to get rid of the wastage in this fishery before we start striking at the heart of recreational, who have been really on good behaviour for the last 25, 30 years.
All right, James, appreciate your thoughts from that. Our roving reporter from around the traps is James Cameron, and we'll have more information in the next issue of the Fishing Paper. If you want to follow that story, stay tuned. That's all we've got time for. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And nothing from James.